Hello, and welcome to a Pokemon XD Gala Darkness Venusaur line only challenge. Now, I've already made a part 1 and part 2 to this series covering the other Kanto starters, and they did fairly well, I'd say. So hopefully Venusaur can follow that example and do pretty well. But there are a few glaring weaknesses that we'll go over shortly. Anyway, with that being said, Venusaur has 80 HP, 82 attack, 83 defense, 100 special attack, 100 special defense, and 80 speed. It gets access to basically only grass and normal type moves other than Earthquake. And you might notice in the bottom right that I have a giant X through Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb does not exist in this game, or its post-game. I was relying on that for a little bit of type coverage, so hopefully that's not too important. But before we can get to Venusaur, we must first start at the beginning, with Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur has 45 HP, 49 attack, 49 defense, 65 special attack, 65 special defense, and 45 speed, so it's a very well-rounded special attacker, with some pretty decent stats all around. And now that we have our Bulbasaur transferred in, it has a Bashful Nature, which is neutral stat gains. It could be worse, I guess. It gets access to the Overgrow ability, which raises its Grass-type moves when under a third HP. And these are the moves off of Bulbapedia that I could find that it gets right at or before level 10. So it gets Tackle, Growl, Leech Seed, and Vine Whip. One of which is very important for this fight right here, and I'm just using this as an example. So the other two really struggled in this early part of the game. They had to go back and fight some pretty weak trainers back in Guardian Port. However, since Bulbasaur has Leech Seed, it can Leech Seed both opponents and start healing huge amounts of health, especially for this early in the game. And even better is because the Teddiursa has to be purified, I have to keep it around, meaning that it will be a not so threatening damage sponge. Like, I don't like to keep it around, but it's just a nature of the game. You have to get past this point with it, otherwise you can't continue the game. So anyway, we defeat this trainer with ease. And with that being said, we get access to the move Bullet Seed, which I thought was better than it was. I don't know, maybe I relied on it too much for some of these fights, but it's certainly okay. And right here, I get access to the move Poison Powder, which I don't learn. Instead, I'd rather learn Sleep Powder, which is a 75% accurate move that puts your opponent to sleep. So it's going to be very important for some fights. And our Bulbasaur is evolving. Not in the first area, but pretty far after, into Ivysaur, which is going to be very helpful for the next area coming up. And that's because it has 60 HP, 62 attack, 63 defense, 80 special attack, 80 special defense, and 60 speed, which is a kind of okay upgrade to all the stats from before. I don't know, could be worse, I guess. Anyway, time for the rambling section of the video. So, this is actually being recorded right after the Charmander video, so if you did leave a comment down below, I haven't seen it yet. But I would like to say, even still, if you have a Pokemon suggestion, please put it down below. I'd like to hear what you have in mind, because I'm not really sure what Pokemon I want to do next. I only have one more video at the moment made. Well, recorded, not voiced just yet. But yeah, if you have any suggestions on any Pokemon, please put it down below. Otherwise, I might consider doing a legendary after this next video. Or I might do something entirely different, who knows. There was a video idea I was kind of sleeping on for a while that I'm thinking about doing, but also it's not really Pokemon XD related. So if you would like to see something a little different from XD, let me know. I'm not sure if I'm going to be full variety challenge type of channel, but you know, if I feel I want to branch out sometimes, I might. But I want to hear your suggestions down below. Anyway, also just some slight post me. I've decided to speed up this section just because I ran out of things to say. So enjoy the speedy. So after this, I get access to the move Razor Leaf, which I'm going to teach immediately, over Vine Whip, which might be a problem, but it's fine, probably. And here we are at Lavrina. Now I decide to use Leech Seed right away on Love Disc, just because I want some healing. But Beautifly is going to be spamming Gust, and Gust is super effective. It's not doing a ton of damage, but it's more than my Leech Seed is healing. So I try to sleep it, I miss. Tackle's doing basically nothing to me. Another Gust. And it gets a crit. Okay, that's just unfortunate. I'm not going to be able to heal up that damage. Another Sleep Powder and another miss. Oh, okay. Another Gust. Takes me down super low. Leech Seed is going to heal me up slightly though. Sleep Powder actually hits this time, but I think it's way too late. There's nothing I can really do at this point. Tackle comes out, doing very little. I get a little bit of health back. And I think I turned my attention to the Beautifly. Yeah, I Leech Seed it for a little bit extra health. Another Tackle. Luckily, Beautifly does sleep another turn, so I am able to get off a little bit more health. I go for Bullet Seed because I want the single target damage. But unfortunately, after the tackle here, Beautifly does wake up, uses Gust, and takes me down. So, not a first try, but let's try that again. We come out of the gate swinging this time, put Beautifly straight to sleep, because if it does anything, it's a threat. I then use Leech Seed on it just to do some steady damage. Unfortunately, I miss. And it's still asleep, so that's good. Another try. Another miss. Okay, well that's very unfortunate. I'm pretty sure it's 90% accurate, so that's just really unlucky. This time it actually lands. But unfortunately it wakes up, and I get hit with a Gust. So now I need to put it to sleep again. To sleep again. Sleep Powder actually hits, which is nice. Now one thing I could do, which I will start doing later, is you can actually call to raise your Pokemon's accuracy. And what that does is it makes it so that Sleep Powder has a much higher chance of actually landing. So it's just something to keep in mind that I'll start doing later for a lot of fights. Anyway, the Leech Seed is starting to heal me pretty good. So now I can start using Bullet Seed. And the reason I'm using Bullet Seed, I said single target before, but the main reason is because if I use Razor Leaf, it's going to hit both the Love Disc and the Beautifly. And I really don't want to be doing damage to the Love Disc because I'm going to keep it alive as long as possible, just as a healing bank. So I'm going to Sleep Powder once again, which hits. And this is a slow and painful way to do it, but it does get you past this fight fairly quickly at a lower level than the other two. So another Bullet Seed. Doing so little damage. I think that's part of the problem with this line in general, is that their damage output just isn't all that great. They kind of rely on status effects to actually get anything done. Anyway, the Beautifly is now down. Out comes Roselia. Another Tackle, doing very little. And I didn't know it at this point, but apparently you can actually leech seed grass types in this game. I didn't know that. That might have been something they changed in a later generation. But I thought that grass types were immune to leech seed. Anyway, I immediately put to sleep the Delcatty because having it awake is obviously a threat. And these pin missiles are doing very little to me, so not really that much of a threat. I leech seed the Delcatty to get some health off of it. Because it's a pretty high level, I'm going to get a decent amount of health from it. More pin missiles. And the damage is kind of stacking up now. I then go for Razor Leaf just to spread damage in order to take down both pretty quickly, but the Roselia takes very little because it's 4 times resistant. But luckily, just chipping away at it will eventually work. Another Razor Leaf takes Delcatty pretty low, and it gets a Shadow Rush off, doing actually not that much damage. Another Pin Missile, and this one hits 4 times. Leech Seed takes down the Delcatty, so I now don't have my heal bank anymore. And at this point, like I said, I still didn't know that I could use Leech Seed on Roselia, so I didn't. But also, I think it might poison me because it's a poison type? I don't know. Leech Seed's got some weird mechanics that I've never actually used before. Because I remember I Leech Seeded a Pokemon later who was a poison type and it did damage to me. So maybe that's just a quirk of Leech Seed. Anyway, at level 33, Ivysaur evolves into Venusaur. And of course, you can't have a video without the obligatory Mirror Beam mention. There he is. Look at that guy. Dancing. And of course, at the Real Gam Tower, I pick up the usual Hidden Power and Protect. And I think I scrolled down a bit to see if there was a grass type equivalent like Solar Beam, but it wasn't there. So anyway, we move right on to the Snettle fight, which is actually going to be a cakewalk because he is pretty weak to grass, all things considered. His only real answer is a normal type cast form and a steel type Metang. So we're going to breeze right through this battle with just Razor Leaf. So Lantern goes down, and the Lunatone, not quite taken down, but it's just going to set up Shadow Sky. So as long as I'm not sticking around for too long, I shouldn't go down. Another Razor Leaf. Takes the cast form to half, and Lunatone goes down, and then out comes his Metang. Icy Wind. I didn't know it had Icy Wind. Well, that's a little annoying, but honestly not really threatening. I use another Razor Leaf to take down the cast form. And how much will it do to Metang? Okay, that's not a lot. Confusion. I am part poison type, so that is going to do super effective damage. And Fruity Pebbles probably help me. Hidden Power, which happens to be Ghost, I believe. So it's okay. But also, it's very important that it just happened to be Ghost, and I'll explain why later. I don't hit myself in confusion, so we're able to take down the Metang and beat him first try. So now we move right on to Gonzap. And as you can see, I'm not quite fully healed, and that's because you have to do a trainer battle right before this. And that Nuzleaf is always going to use Fake Out turn 1, and the Electrode can either use Sonic Boom or Spark. Or Thunderbolt, I think. So it's doing a consistent 20 damage to me, and Hyper Beam's doing a little bit, not really too much, so the Nuzleaf's not a threat. I go for Razor Leaf, which takes down the Electrode, and does a decent amount of damage to the Nuzleaf. Out comes Vileplume, who is a bit scary. because it is another Pokemon that is 4 times resistant to my grass type moves. So I go for Hidden Power, and it's not quite half, unfortunately. Oh, and disregard my comments on Leech Seed working on grass types. I meant the powder moves. I got it mixed up. So I'll probably go back and fix those, but if I miss one, just know that I just got the wrong one. Anyway, yeah, whoops, I forgot to heal before this fight. I just used a potion, and I've run out of PP for Hidden Power. So now it's a struggle to get through this, instead of a breeze. So another Razor Leaf, doing very little. Luckily I got a crit. Nuzleaf goes down, so I will be able to get to the Whiscash. But unfortunately, Vileplume does hit another Sleep Powder, which is kind of unfortunate, because now I have to waste a turn calling to wake myself back up, and Whiscash gets a Rock Tomb out on me, which doesn't do much damage, but will lower my speed, meaning that I might be slower than the big threat that is Skarmory, because I don't really have anything to hit that hard either. I do get a crit on Whiscash to take it down, so that's kind of nice. Out comes Skarmory. Vileplume hits another Sleep Powder, so that's 3 now, which is quite unlucky. And here comes Aerial Ace, and that's doing a good chunk. Hyper Beam's doing a solid chunk. Okay, I'm getting pretty low, and the Skarmory doesn't even have to reload right now. Sleep Powder misses. Another Aerial Ace takes me down to 3 health. And unless I can land the Sleep Powder, which I do, okay, now I just have to hope that for some reason Hyper Beam misses, even though I've been hit with Evasiveness down. Yeah. Okay, well, not too bad for a first attempt. And to not bore you too much with the refight, it's basically the same, except now I have actual PP for my Hidden Power, so I will be using that. Also, I decide to call there to raise the accuracy of Sleep Powder, and now I use Hidden Power. Unfortunately, it wakes up turn 1. I wake myself up. I get my evasiveness lowered. I go for another Hidden Power. I fall asleep again. Razor Leaf takes down the Vileplume, nearly takes down the Nuzleaf, but one more will take it down. And then out comes the Skarmory by itself this time. And now I'm just going to spam Razor Leaf until it goes down, because I'm doing more damage than it. And after a few turns, it should just go down. And that's Gonzap. Anyway, here we are in the pyramid now, and I have unfortunately had the opportunity to learn Synthesis. This is a really bad time for Synthesis, because although I really want it, I'm in a place where it's not all that useful, so it's a little scary. And speaking of scary, so I said the Hidden Power type wasn't very good. I lied. The Hidden Power type might be the only reason why I can even finish this run. Because Venusaur has no moves that can hit Shedinja at all. Now, I wouldn't take it into consideration because I would obviously just catch a Pokemon, like a Shadow Pokemon always does super effective damage, so I'm thinking that would always work. But, you know, it was definitely a threat. Also, I teach Earthquake, because Earthquake's just an amazing move. And I teach it over Hidden Power, because Hidden Power's already done its job. It just needed to get me past the Shedinja. So I got rid of it right away. And now to spam Earthquake, just as I always do for this fight. And let me just say, when I first saw that animation for Earthquake, I just started laughing, because I've never seen a Pokemon move like that in any game. The fact that he gets up and like sumo stomps on the ground, it caught me so off guard, because I've played this game quite a few times, but you know, you don't really get access to a Venusaur. And I've played the Pokemon Stadium games, and unless you trade in a Venusaur, I assume you can't actually see that move. That is if it's directly ported over. So that was pretty interesting to see. What isn't interesting is this fight with Gorgon, because it's if your Pokemon can learn Earthquake, you're just spamming Earthquake for the most part. There's no real reason to do anything else except for when they protect. But once you break down his strategy by doing his strategy back at him, it's kind of brain dead. But that's alright. Sometimes it's nice to have a quick break before the final area, where you don't really need to think about it. Out comes a Shadow Storm, doing basically nothing. I can heal most of that damage back. I did run out of Earthquake PP though, so that's a little scary, but yeah, at that point, not really a threat. And now we're going over to Citadel Isle. I already forgot the jingle. Our first opponent is Lovrina. Now I'm going to use Razor Leaf here because it's super effective against the Pokemon that's opposite my gender. And I really don't want to get attracted. And unfortunately, the problem with that is that Gardevoir does have Psychic. And Psychic is super effective and is very, very strong. Like, that was about half my health with a single move. And I'm not really good at taking hits. Like, sure, I have Synthesis, but Synthesis can only get you so far in recovery. So I now go for Sleep Powder, miss. Shadow Break hits, doing not so much damage. Shadow Panic hits, though. That's an important one to not get hit by. And now I'm confused. Okay, well, I just need to hit... Nope, there's the first confusion. Another Shadow Break. And a Shadow Sky, so now I can't heal anymore. Or if I can heal, it's only a quarter with Synthesis. Which, yeah, that's almost nothing. Another Shadow Break. Taking me down to just about where I was. A second Shadow Break actually takes me down. So, here we are on the third attempt against Lovrina. Where I've just decided I need to get rid of Gardevoir as soon as possible, because it doing that much damage right at the beginning is definitely a threat. Now, Attract still does suck, but it's only a 50-50 shot whether or not I get attracted. So it's not really that dangerous. Well, except for Ice Beam, but it doesn't do nearly as much as Psychic would. So now I go for Razor Leaf to actually take it down. And the important thing is that it's not going to take down Roselia, so I can kind of funnel in the birds one by one without threat of getting destroyed by them. Another Pin Missile coming out, not doing very much damage at all, about 5 damage per hit. I then go for Sleep Powder, hoping to sleep the Farfetch'd, because as we saw, Shadow Panic can be a real pain if he can actually get it off. Another Pin Missile from Roselia doing very little damage. And now I go for Razor Leaf, because it should be doing more damage to Farfetch'd than it is Roselia. And another Razor Leaf. Now Razor Leaf does have a decent crit chance as well, that I am kind of hoping for. Because I would rather have the Farfetch'd faint, but if they both were to faint at the same time, that'd still be better. Now unfortunately he does wake up, but the Shadow Panic misses. 2 crits in a row, dang. And one last Razor Leaf should finish it off. There's 1 crit. And now out comes Altaria. And now you might be wondering, because there's still a lot of battle here, I may as well talk. You might be wondering, why do I still just have Razor Leaf as my main attacking move? and Earthquake for things on the ground. And that's because I have a plan for Snaddle specifically. As we saw before, Razorleaf is really good at dispatching his team. Even though he's got a Steel type or two in the rematch, it's still really good against his team. And the thing is, I could just use Earthquake for neutral damage. So at this point, I've decided I'm just going to hold on to it until then. Which might be a mistake, because I could have gotten rid of Synthesis or Sleep Powder. But also, the utility of those moves are kind of hard to pass up. And I can't see getting rid of Earthquake, especially with the entire Citydark Isle area to go through. It doesn't make sense. So, unfortunately, I'm kind of stuck with Razorleaf, and that's going to add a lot of time to Venusaur. Which is really unfortunate, because it was going so fast in the beginning. Like, I really thought Venusaur would just fly through the game. But it's had so many hiccups here and there of just... It wants more moves than it can hold. And it only learns grass-type moves, basically, and normal types, so it can't really hit a lot of different types. Anyway, now at the top against Snaddle, I can... Oh, and I accidentally missed the first turn. I just used Razorleaf to get rid of Quagsire. But now I can use Earthquake, and that will get rid of the Metang. And it will also do a decent amount of damage to Scizor. Nearly one-shotting, even. Out comes Solrock. Unfortunately, he has Levitate, but Razorleaf should be within range to possibly KO Scizor. Or at least do a little chunk of damage. To be a two-shot. And maybe. Shadow Sky comes out, so it is a guaranteed two-shot now. Having the poison type is kind of nice, because the bug isn't super effective anymore. So after another Razorleaf. Okay. Did I mention that Razorleaf is 95% accurate? So every once in a long while, you'll miss one. Which is a little unfortunate, because I feel like it doesn't really deserve that accuracy. Because it's not all that strong a move directly. But, anyway, Castform uses Flamethrower, which kind of catches me off guard. I forgot that it had it. So I'm kind of in the same place I was before. But, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I think I'm just stalling out the turns now of Shadow Sky. Because I think I'm sitting just about the same health as I went down to. So I can just keep going until it eventually ends. And now I will go for another Synthesis. Okay, I'm a little greedy, but also the Starmie is a bit of a threat because I'm almost certain it's faster than me. So maybe that's the right call. Fruity Pebbles Rain. I now go for Razorleaf to take them both down. So Solrock goes down. And Castform surprisingly tanks it. I thought it would go down for sure. Anyway, another Flamethrower taking me to nearly half. And the Fruity Pebbles. So now I go for Razorleaf because it is super effective against the Starmie. Or I get a crit. It probably would have one-shot, right? Don't know. Anyway, so once I finish that battle, I don't need Razorleaf anymore, so I replace it with Body Slam. Which hopefully won't come back to bite me. And we move right along to Ardos, who could be a threat to me because he is pretty strong. And as you can see, I'm a little lost in my inventory, and that's just because whenever you get a new move from the move tutor, it throws it at the very back. And that was a lucky paralysis. Shadow Sky and Psychic doing Ooh, Psychic's doing about a third. Okay, so that's a little scary. I didn't think he'd do that much damage. So, I decided to take down the Alakazam just because the bird is paralyzed, and if it uses Shadow Half, it'd be nice to have it on a different Pokemon. Speaking of, Shadow Half takes me down pretty low, takes itself down really low, and Kingdom to half. So I think now just a never mind, I don't have Razor Leaf anymore. Okay, so I go for Earthquake here. Take down Kingdra. And out comes Heracross. Now luckily the Swallow actually has to recharge a turn, so I might be able to do something about it. But I decided to Sleep Powder the Heracross because it can use Mega Horn and do a ton of damage to me. And Shadow Break hits. Probably shouldn't KO. Never mind. Okay. Well, I decide it's time. Let me teach Protect. And here's the scary thing. Is I don't want to give up Sleep Powder, and I don't want to give up Synthesis, but something has to go. And I know it's not Earthquake because I need that for Gorgon. So I decide to get rid of Synthesis, which is a bit scary because having a semi-reliable healing move is kinda nice. It means that you can do the Protect and Heal strategy to just kinda stave off damage during Shadow Skies. But at the time, I was thinking that Sleep Powder would probably be more effective. And as you can see there, because I had Protect, I got rid of the Shadow Half. And so I didn't take all that damage. And now the Swallow is recharging this turn. Fruity Pebbles rain down, and I'm still at full health. So I decide to go for Body Slam into Swallow, just to take it down now. Now Heracross is still kind of scary, but I think it... Oh, it uses Rock Tomb. And misses? Huh. I thought for sure it'd use Mega Horn first turn. Okay, well, Earthquake is going to take down the Electabuzz. And probably take down the Heracross to half, yeah. And then out comes the big bad that is Snorlax. If you come here with a special attacker, be prepared to get walled. Unfortunately. So another Earthquake. Doing a surprising amount of damage to Snorlax. Not quite enough to take down Heracross though. And another miss. Okay, that's quite nice. And the Snorlax lowers its health down enough to where I can one-shot it with Earthquake now. And that's the battle. Okay, well that wasn't too bad. And with Gorgon, you know the deal. I'm just gonna speed this up slightly. Protect on the first turn so that you don't get Earthquaked. And then use Earthquake. And then basically keep doing that over and over again. Slash doesn't do too much damage. Psychic's doing a bit more, but surprisingly not that much. Go for Body Slam to take down the Slowking. And now this turn, since no one has Earthquake, I can use Earthquake. And probably take down the Aggron, which I do. And the Ursaring goes down. Out comes Walrein, and Poliwrath, his first Shadow Pokemon. Poliwrath is always going to set up Shadow Sky the first turn, so it's not really a threat right off the bat. It's doing half to both. Here comes the Shadow Sky. Ice Beam, as long as it doesn't freeze, I'm good. Okay, it got a crit. That did a lot of damage, and that's a little close for comfort. Another Earthquake should take them both down, which it does. And then out comes Mr. Mime, who is his second Shadow Pokemon. I go for Earthquake, and surprisingly take him down. Wow, this is really looking up. I think we're gonna have a pretty easy time right at the end, actually. Ninjask is using Protect. Okay, that's odd. Earthquake to take down the Manectric. Out comes the Salamence, who is usually pretty dangerous, but hopefully won't be too bad because we have Body Slam. But it does have Intimidate, so it is going to be a little bad. Aerial Ace. For super effective, I'm doing about a quarter. Shadow Rush. Okay, with a crit does half, so it'd be about a 4-shot. I decide to probably protect here. Nope, I go for Sleep Powder. Because I'm a gambler. And, okay, well, I didn't die for it, but I think I will next round. So I go for Protect to get just a little bit more health back, and to make sure the Ninjas can't use Aerial Ace. Another Sleep Powder. And it actually hits this time, so that's pretty good. Now, I am going to get hit by the Ninjask this turn. So, I'm hoping I have enough health to survive. Here comes the Body Slam. Ooh, only just, okay. So it's doing about 40 damage with that. Now, if I was just a few levels higher, I think it could be a 3-shot on the Salamence, but unfortunately at this point, it's looking to be a 4. And the Ninjask broke order. I didn't know it could do that. So, after a few attempts, I decided to come here to the Battle Coliseum. What for, you may ask? Well, it was twofold. One was that I could get experience here, and the second was because if you beat the first round, or the first set of trainers, you get the move Giga Drain. And I tried this, and there was one small problem. The final trainer that you have to fight is a bird trainer, a flying type trainer, who does super effective damage and destroyed me. So I came back at level 73, couldn't do it, and so I went to Mount Battle for a bit of training, and found out that I can't get past this floor, because I decided to get rid of all my moves that could hit a levitating ghost. So that's unfortunate. I didn't actually count this battle towards its time, because that's obviously human error. Came back at level 77. Lost. Okay, level 78. Lost. Okay, let's be a little drastic here. Now that I have some points built up, I decide to get Synthesis back again. And I teach it over Sleep Powder, which maybe is what I should have done in the first place. But that's alright. I come back, and this is actually a victory this time. At level 80. So yeah, we're getting pretty high up in level, and we're not even to the last boss of the game. So Earthquake takes down the Manectric just like before, but now that I'm a few levels higher, I decide to go for Protect here to get rid of the Aerial Ace. But now that I'm a few levels higher, I go for Body Slam, and it should be a 3-shot now, which it looks to be. A Lucky Paralysis, and a luckier Paralysis on the first turn. Another Protect. And another Body Slam. Shadow Rush isn't really doing too much to me. It's doing about 40. I go for another Protect. And yeah, this battle is a lot of Protect, and you know what, actually let me speed it up real quick. And there we go, that's a little nicer. So I'm able to take down the Salamence with 3 Body Slams. I go for another Protect, and the thing with this battle that made it kind of difficult was the fact that every time I tried it at an earlier level, I would use Protect while it attacked, it would use Protect every other turn, and eventually the Ninjask would run out of Protects. And it always seemed to happen on the last turn, basically, when it was just me and the Lapras and it. So it would use its last Protect. Lapras would use like Shadow Storm. I would be pretty low, but I could definitely survive another attack. Or if Ninjask happened to protect that turn, it would have been fine. But it never perfectly lined up for me, so I couldn't quite do it that way. And also, I'm getting pretty lucky on these Shadow Winds. So I go for Protect here, get rid of the Aerial Ace. Body Slam should take down the Ninjask. Oh, okay. Oh, the Marowak's pretty scary though. Yeah, that did about half damage. I think I would have rather had the Ninjask, honestly. And maybe I was just getting frustrated with it and wanted it gone. Anyway, another Earthquake. And one last one should do it. And that's Eldest after quite a few attempts. So here we are, now at the big box legendary Shadowlugia, who is our gatekeeper to the end of the game. Body Slam's doing, about a third maybe? Maybe closer to a quarter. Another Body Slam. Oh, and a crit. Okay. Okay, well that's pretty lucky. So let's go ahead and get to the final boss of the game. I go for Protect turn 1. Shadow Fire doesn't hit because of it. And I'm just doing that to get some health back. Body Slam into Moltres is doing about half. Shadow Fire is going to do quite a lot. Never mind. Shadow End? Huh, okay, so I'm taking about a quarter from both of them. Which isn't great, but it also isn't the worst. Protect to get some health back. Ooh, another Body Slam's able to take down the Moltres. Out comes Executor. Another Shadow End misses, that's nice. Use Protect for some healing. Shadow End, Shadow End. And now I go for Earthquake, thinking it'll one-shot the Rhydon, which it does. And doing under half to the Executor, but that's alright. Out comes Tauros. Intimidate, Shadow End hits, doing about the same as the Rhydon. I go for Synthesis to heal that back up. Shadow Sky comes out. And I get a miss. So now I'm at full health. So for being a first attempt, this is going fairly well. Body Slam to take down the Executor because I just don't want to deal with this randomness. And at least I know the Tauros has another turn of doing something else. Out comes the Articuno now, who might be a pretty big threat. As long as it doesn't freeze me, though, I think it shouldn't be too bad. Fruity Pebbles Rain. I use Protect just to stall out another turn of it. And they come down again. So let's go for Body Slam, see how much it does. Okay, a crit nearly takes it down, meaning that it's a 3-shot or a 2-shot with a high roll. And that Ice Chill isn't doing too much, it's about a 5th. So I should be able to take quite a few of those. So I go for Protect. And here comes a Shadow Rush and a Shadow Chill. Shadow Aura fades away, so no more Fruity Pebbles. One of them's going to have to set it up, so here's my chance to get in some damage. So I take down the Articuno. And then out comes Zapdos. So now that Zapdos is out, we gotta see how much damage Body Slam does to it. So I go for Body Slam. Never mind, I go for Protect to waste a turn of Rain. Fruity Pebbles. And now I go for Body Slam. How much is it gonna do? About a third. Okay, how much does Shadow Bolt do? About a quarter. Shadow Rush. About a 5th. Okay, well that's not looking great, and I can't really out-heal that damage, I don't think. I go for Protect, waste another turn of it. Another Shadow Bolt, Shadow Rush. And now I either have to gamble on a 50-50 Protect or just use the safe Synthesis. Gets me up to half. Shadow Bolt takes me down to 39. And Shadow Rush finishes me off. Okay, well that's alright. And here's the... Okay, I have a confession to make. I would like to say that this was the final battle. But, my recording messed up on the actual final battle. And so, this is the closest thing I have. So I do still lose, unfortunately. But I will go over a screenplay, if you will, of how it went down. So, let's just begin. On turn 1, I hit Moltres and get hit by the Rhydon. On turn 2, I protect. On turn 3, I KO the Moltres. And also on turn 3, Executor comes out. On turn 4, I Synthesis. Eggy and Rhydon both miss. On turn 5, I take down the Rhydon, and out comes Tauros. On turns 6, 7, 8, and 9, I gamble on getting hit and KO Tauros when Shadow Sky dies. That Articuno came out. And then on turns 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, it's attack Articuno, defend, and don't get hit by the Shadow End. And then, of course, before I took down the Articuno, I went for a big heal. That means that Shadow Sky was not up at the time. And of course, Executor misses. On that next turn, I take down the Articuno, and out comes Zapdos. Executor misses again, and on 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, I do the same thing as I did with Articuno. Gamble and don't get hit and protect, and kind of attack when I can. And then KO Zapdos, and then on 21, I defeat Executor to win the game. So, yeah, that's, I didn't really want it to be this way, but last time I saved before this was, I think, back at Gorgon, and I couldn't see putting in the hour or hour and a half that it took to level up to level 88, and then still be stuck at the same spot, so I took the easy way out. I'm sorry. But it just happened that way. I don't know why it messed up. I've had a few battles that have done that, but it's very far and few between. And it's a little annoying that it happened to happen on Venusaur of all Pokemon, because I was really rooting for it at the beginning. And then I realized that it has a few flaws, which starts with the fact that grass type moves are bad, especially in this game. Like, I put up a list here of all the different types that take 4 times resisted damage to it, and there's so many Pokemon on that list that you have to fight in the game. Bug Flying, Bug Steel, Fire Flying, Steel Flying, Grass Poison, Poison Flying, Bug Poison, Dragon Flying. And there's probably even a couple more Pokemon that I didn't think of. But, no, Grass type just seems like it sucks in this game. There's too many just bugs and flying types and steel types that just make it very difficult. There are a few bosses and different things that are pretty okay for it, but overall I'd say it's not a very compatible game with grass types. I honestly think it's probably the worst type in the game, simply because it just doesn't really do anything spectacular. And grass type moves are pretty bad, I guess, because as you saw, I was stuck with Razor Leaf for quite a while. So with that being said, unfortunately, Venusaur gets put down right in front of Teddiursa. Now, I will say, I did put Line on the 3 starter Pokemon, because I wanted to indicate that it wasn't just the Pokemon by itself, it was the whole trio. Otherwise, it'd be a little confusing. But with that being said, I guess thanks for watching. I didn't want to end on such a sad note, but Venusaur just didn't do well. And that was a part of that is on me. That a lot of it is player error. Maybe I should have just leveled up more before I started trying to tackle things. And maybe I should have deleted some moves in different orders. Like, I guess Razor Leaf wasn't really all that important to think for the longevity, but also it's so good against the rocks and it doesn't really have anything else that I'd like to swap it with. And maybe I relied on Sleep Powder a bit too much, but with that being said, bye.